Alex Pereira, a former two-division Glory kickboxing champion who brought one thing to the UFC: power. And while some will point to his low kicks, Pereira's real signature is the left hook. It's put some of the best strikers in the world to sleep. That left hook isn't just thrown with power, it's thrown with intention. Pereira uses his jab to measure distance and keep opponents guessing. He'll feint, shift his weight, make you think about the leg kick, a compact left hook that comes over the guard or catches you mid-movement. It doesn't travel far, but it doesn't need to. The most iconic example, Israel Adesanya at UFC 281. Pereira stalked him down, stayed patient, then landed a left hook that buckled Izzy and sealed the knockout. It was the same punch that had knocked out Adesanya in kickboxing years earlier. Different sport, same result. But don't sleep on the low kicks. Pereira's calf kicks are vicious and set up the left hook. You prepare to check the kick, and the hook comes upstairs. You stay high to defend the punch, and your leg gets chopped. It's a dilemma with no good answer. Jon Jones. Jon Jones wasn't just a champion, he was a problem solver. And his favorite solution? The spinning back elbow. Jones used his 84.5-inch reach to control distance, jabbing and picking you apart from range. Then he'd close the gap, tie you up against the cage, and the moment you felt safe in the clinch, he'd spin. No warning, no setup, just a sharp elbow crashing across your temple with fight-ending force. The most famous victim? Stephan Bonner at UFC 94. Jones spun, landed clean, and Bonner dropped instantly. But it wasn't a fluke. Jones kept this move locked and loaded throughout his career, and once opponents knew it existed, they had to respect it. That fear opened up everything else. Georges St-Pierre. Georges St-Pierre wasn't just a welterweight champion, he was a technician. And while GSP had a huge arsenal, one move always stole the show: the Superman punch. This wasn't some flashy gimmick thrown for highlight reels. GSP used it as a tactical weapon. He'd spend rounds establishing his jab and mixing in kicks. He made you think about everything. Then out of nowhere, he'd leap forward, knee rising like he's throwing a kick, and bam! A straight right hand crashing through your guard while you're still trying to defend the kick that never came. Max Holloway. Max Holloway doesn't just fight, he makes statements. And his most iconic move isn't even a technique, it's a point to the ground. A universal signal for, let's stand right here and throw down. Holloway has done this multiple times, but the most legendary moment came at UFC 300 against Justin Gaethje. With 10 seconds left in the final round, Max pointed to the center of the octagon. Both fighters walked to the middle and unloaded everything they had left. Punch for punch, no defense, just pure will. The crowd exploded, the fight ended, and Max knocked Gaethje out cold with 1 second left on the clock. Khamzat Immediate doesn't waste time. No feeling out process, no glove touch. The second the bell rings, he's already sprinting across the octagon for a takedown. It's not aggression, it's an ambush. Chimaev's instant takedown is his signature. He explodes forward the moment the fight starts, closing distance before opponents can even settle into their stance. Once he gets his hands on you, the takedown's coming, and the pressure that follows is relentless. The most memorable example, Li Jingliang. The bell rang, Khamzat Chimaev shot across the cage, secured a takedown immediately, then carried Li across the octagon before locking in the rear naked choke. It was dominance from the opening round, and Li never had a chance to fight his fight. Against DDP and Kevin Holland, the same story. Bell rings, Khamzat Chimaev shoots. He doesn't give you time to think or settle. The fight starts and you're already defending for your life. Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz doesn't just fight, he disrespects you while doing it. And nothing embodies that more than the Stockton slap. An open-handed smack across the face that's equal parts insult and assault. The Stockton slap isn't thrown for damage, it's thrown for humiliation. Diaz uses it mid-combination, slipping in slaps between punches to mock his opponent and break their mental game. It's a taunt that lands. And once he hits you with it, he's telling you and everyone watching that he's not worried. He's in control. One of the most iconic moments, Conor McGregor at UFC 196. Diaz landed a clean slap right across Conor's face, then followed it up with punches. Conor shot for a desperate takedown shortly after, and Diaz ended up winning the fight. That slap wasn't just disrespect, it was the turning point. Conor McGregor didn't just talk his way to the top. He backed it up with one weapon that made believers out of everyone: the left hand. A perfectly timed counterpunch that put many fighters to sleep. McGregor's left hand isn't just powerful, it's precise. He uses distant management, footwork, and timing to set it up. He'll lean back, let you reach, then step in and fire. It comes straight down the pipe, often catching opponents as they're lunging forward, doubling the impact. It's a counter-striker's dream, and Conor perfected it. Islam Makhachev is a grappling nightmare. a suffocating ground game built on control, pressure, and submissions you don't see coming. And his signature finish, the Darce choke, a sneaky technical submission that's caught some of the best fighters in the world off guard. The Darce isn't flashy, but it's effective. Makhachev sets it up during scrambles. He slips his arm around the neck, locks his hands, and squeezes. Once it's locked in, there's no escape. It's tight, it's fast, and the times he has used it, his opponents tap almost immediately. Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is the most dangerous fighter on the planet when the fight hits the ground. A submission specialist with more finishes than anyone in the UFC. And his signature? The rear naked choke. A classic, reliable, and absolutely lethal finish that's ended more fights than any flashy technique ever could. Oliveira doesn't just hunt for the back, he flows into it. Whether he's threatening with strikes, scrambling from bottom position, or transitioning off a failed takedown defense, he finds a way to take the back and lock in the choke. Once his hooks are in and his arms under the chin, it's over. The most iconic example, Justin Gaethje at UFC 274. Oliveira dropped Gaethje in the first round and locked in a rear naked choke for the finish. Gaethje, one of the toughest fighters in the world, had no choice but to tap. Against Dustin Poirier, it was the same story. Oliveira took the back in the third round and sunk in the rear naked choke to defend the lightweight title. Poirier fought it, but there was no escape. And in his most recent fight, another rear naked choke. The pattern's pretty clear. Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria is a problem. A calculated finisher with power in both hands and the patience to wait for the perfect moment. And his signature? Hooks against the cage. The moment he traps you there, it's target practice, and you're the target. Topuria uses pressure and footwork to cut off the octagon, herding opponents towards the fence. Once your back touches the cage, he unloads. Left hook, right hook, both thrown with bad intentions. He doesn't just swing wildly, he picks his shots, finding openings in the guard and landing clean. The cage takes away your escape routes, and Topuria makes you pay for it. The most devastating example was Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 298. Topuria backed Volk to the cage and unleashed a perfect right hook that dropped him. He followed up with more shots on the ground for the knockout. The seemingly untouchable featherweight king was finished, and it started with pressure against the cage. Against Max Holloway, he used the same blueprint. Topuria cornered Max against the fence multiple times, landing heavy hooks throughout the fight. In the third round, he dropped Holloway with a right hook and finished him on the ground. Another former champion, another knockout, in the same location. Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is one of the most dangerous lightweights to ever step in the octagon. Sharp boxing, devastating body shots, and an iron will. But there's one move he loves to attempt that almost never works: jumping the guillotine. Poirier sees an opening, his opponent shoots for a takedown or dips their head, and he leaps, wraps his arm around the neck midair, pulls guard, and squeezes. And it almost always gets defended. The problem? High-level fighters know it's coming. Poirier has tried it multiple times throughout his career, against guys like Khabib, Charles Oliveira, and others. Every time, they stay calm, they posture up, and escape. But Poirier keeps throwing it out there because when it works, it's a fight ender. Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is the most frustrating fighter to watch, and the most frustrating fighter to face. His signature? The jab and front kick. Two basic, unglamorous weapons that he uses to control distance, pile up points, and put fans to sleep while winning decisions. Strickland doesn't come to brawl. He comes to poke, push, and frustrate. He throws a stiff jab to the face over and over, keeping opponents at the end of his reach. When they try to close distance, he snaps a front kick to the body, pushing them back. It's not exciting or explosive, but it works. The most shocking example, Israel Adesanya at UFC 293. Strickland jabbed and kicked his way to a decision victory over one of the most dynamic strikers in the sport. He didn't try to match Izzy's flashy striking. He just jabbed, kicked, and walked forward for 5 rounds. The crowd wasn't thrilled, but Strickland walked away with the middleweight title. Merab. Merab is a cardio machine with one goal: to break you with pressure. And his signature move isn't a knockout strike or a slick submission. It's literally picking you up and carrying you across the octagon like luggage. Merab's wrestling is relentless. He shoots takedowns over and over. He hoists his opponents off the ground and walks him across the cage. It humiliates you, and it shows everyone watching that you can't stop him. Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is the fastest heavyweight you've ever seen. A 250-pound wrecking ball with the hand speed of a middleweight and the power to shut your lights off in seconds. And his signature? The 1-2 combination. Simple, clean, and devastatingly effective. Aspinall doesn't overcomplicate things. He closes distance, throws a sharp jab to the face, a immediately follows with a straight hand, and the fight's over. It's textbook boxing, but at heavyweight speed that doesn't exist. The jab sets up the cross, and the cross puts people to sleep. Sean O'Malley, a flashy striker with precision that backs up all the talk, and his signature, the straight left hand, a sniper shot that drops opponents when they least expect it. O'Malley fights southpaw, using his constant movement, feints, and awkward angles to keep opponents guessing. He'll bounce, switch stances, throw kicks, then out of nowhere, fire the straight left down the pipe. It's fast, it's accurate, and it has knockout power. He doesn't load up, he just finds the opening and pulls the trigger. And his most defining moment, Aljamain Sterling at UFC 292. O'Malley landed a perfectly timed straight left in the second round that dropped Sterling and led to the TKO finish. He became the bantamweight champion with one clean shot, just like he'd been saying he would.